Hi, I'm Mallory Whitfield, and today I'm going to be talking with Kasra Khalili about how to get good at networking. Kasra has a lot of networking experience. He is the CEO and co-founder of Mintor, which is an exclusive networking app for entrepreneurs. He also is the chapter director of Startup Grind, the Baton Rouge, Louisiana chapter. And he and I talked a few months back before the COVID quarantine at one of the Startup Grind local chapter meetings. I shared some of my own entrepreneurial experience. And today he's going to share some tips that he has learned along the way about how to be a better networker, how to not be a terrible networker, because it's really easy to do that too, right? Networking gets a bad rap. So let's dive right in, and he will give you some of his advice and learnings about being a great networker. Hi, Kasra. Thanks for joining us to talk about networking, how to be a better networker today.
Hey Mallory, thanks for having me. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you are a skilled networker in so many ways. Can you talk a little bit about how you got good at networking, your kind of own networking journey?
Sure. Well, I guess I don't know if I would call myself a great network. I hate networking. I think I need to. That's something that sometimes it's unknown about me. I love people. I love connecting with people. I hate networking as it is. Just the idea that it's a very self-serving kind of, you get this, I get that mentality. At least that's what I experienced going in. So for me, my networking journey has been finding ways to not network, finding ways to break down. I think some of the expectations that you see, whether it be in events online, and try to do it my own way. And on that journey, I found a startup to help solve it. I started writing a book, and obviously, me and you had that experience at a fireside chat. So we're hoping to do things differently. And I don't know if I would call myself a networker, but I guess that comes with the territory.
Yeah, well, so I think you and I both really care about the relationship building side of
Yes.
networking, but sometimes networking gets this bad rap. It's like very transactional, it feels like, for a lot of
Yes.
people, where if you go to in-person events back when that was more of a thing, people just like shove their business card in your face and you
Yep.
don't even know them. Do you have any like kind of basic tips for somebody's getting started, like how to be a more non-sleazy networker, especially now
Mm,
that we've switched from in-person events where it's kind of all having to happen online too right now?
yeah. So I can show you. Let me share a little bit of my journey to it, and maybe that'll help explain some of the tips that I came to. So when I left college, I had this. I felt I was very personable. I felt that I could build connections fairly easily. The second I stepped out of college, I realized how unnetworked I was, and part of that had to do with my family. We're immigrants from Iran. We did not have a foundation of people here that we can go to for different things. Hell, my first job came through the connection of my girlfriend at the time's uncle's friend, just to show you how powerful something like that is, and who the hell is he to help me? But it's powerful knowing people. So I went on this journey to start finding people in business, and the LinkedIn method is successful in ways, but also just flat out annoying. When people reach out to you with, "Hey, let's connect," and my response these days is kind of a blanketed response. If I ever get "let's connect," I go, "What do you mean?" Because it's hard to open up a conversation that way. But to your point, so that kind of led me to launching the Startup Mentor, that is a networking app for entrepreneurs, doing the Startup Grind events that you were a part of here this past earlier in 2020. For me, going out and networking, you have to know who you're trying to meet. It starts there. It's very easy to find people in your industry, okay, in tech. Maybe people that enjoy, are interested in machine learning, interested in content creation. So I think those high level linear kind of matches that people go after, I say it's wrong simply because I'm not interested in talking to everyone that is interested in tech. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. I think that's where some of the divide is that we think that everyone should meet everyone. And yes, everyone has something of value to share, but where there's so many people, you have to get a little focused and you have to put in some time to figure out who that other person is. So, okay, let's say you're going to an event, and I'll start with in person. That's where we were. If you're going to a place, an event in person, what I do is I email the event organizers and ask for a list of people attending. It's not, and if they say it's private, hey, sure, it's private, but more times than not, it's a public event. And I, as an attendee, want to know if there's value for me there. So I look at that list, and then I figure out who I would want to meet on that list. And look, keep it small, keep it to 2 or 3, and then I will send out a LinkedIn message to that person saying, hey, I noticed that I connected with the event organizer, noticed you're going to the event this weekend. Would love to grab 5 minutes over a beer or coffee while we're there to chat. And every single time they will say yes, because no one else is doing that. No one else is taking the time to learn that person and who that person is ahead of time. So it's a little different in virtual. I don't think we figured it out yet on how to network virtually. We can put on panels, we can put on fireside chats, but for one-to-one, for people to connect with one another, I don't know. I'll mention this. We're actually working on something called Mintor Lounges, which we'll announce soon here in sometime in August, where we hope to try to solve a piece of that.
Cool. Yeah, I love that idea of like getting really clear ahead of time about who you're trying to connect with. I think that's really important for so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you were doing a lot of kind of intentional networking with Mintor and like trying to get your app, your company connected with people. Can you talk through that? Like some of your own experiences or stories with networking for the purposes of like growing your company?
Sure. So I'll give you an example of, let's say LinkedIn is how a lot of people go out and connect, and I still use it. Even though, my messages is, a pile of trash, there is gems in that trash. And again, it sounds, it's just the truth in speaking, where you have a B2B selling platform that has every person of every business and every background able to sign up. That's what you get. It's inevitable. So for me, when, let's say, especially investors and advisors, now when I reach out to people, I give them a clear 1 to 2 sentence overview of who I am, what I do, and the third sentence is exactly what I'm looking for. And usually if there's a follow-up that says no thank you, I have a follow-up message to that says, hey, no problem, I appreciate you telling me. Could you recommend me to someone else that you may know? And maybe they respond, maybe they don't. That's okay. Secondly, those that do, I have a very clear, they asks, like having a big ask and a small ask for them. But this all starts beforehand, on doing that beforehand, before you get into any kind of conversation, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because on the flip side, like maybe you could share examples of like how not to network, right? Because I've definitely had plenty of experiences, even on LinkedIn, where it's almost like the bait and switch. People reach out and they act like they're just trying to get to know you on a kind of a personal level. And then I've set up, a Zoom call, and then all of a sudden they're selling me. And I would have just saved both of our time and told them I'm not interested in what you're selling if they had just been a little bit more upfront.
Absolutely. So interestingly enough, there is, I found this through someone that I connected with recently. On their Calendly link, there's a question that says, are you trying to sell me something? If so, what? And that way he has the opportunity to turn it down. And then if you do that, obviously, then you're pretty awful if you still sell something to someone and say you're not going to. Look, I don't think you can speak for the other side. You're going to get sold stuff. It's okay. What they'll be interested in is if there's something beneficial from you to them. So I'll take, for example, in Mintor, we try to build mutually beneficial connections. Our recommendations are not based on what that person can do for you. It is also if their need fits your experience, and then driving that connection to have a mutual benefit. So let's say it's someone that you're trying to reach out to at LinkedIn at an event virtual conference, whatever it is. Do your best. Look, most people have a very, I'd say moderately visible social and digital footprint. You can see what they're interested in, what they do, and find topics that you can speak to that would drive value to that person. Now, there's a caveat there. I wouldn't recommend simply sharing value if you don't have it. And I know that sounds like, maybe a little discouraging, but don't make it up. If you don't have something, like, don't speak on a topic that you don't know about. If anything, I would in turn ask them to learn about what they know if you don't know about it. So if there's something share it. If you don't, ask to learn. Be a learn-it-all. Just don't be an asshole, I guess.
Yeah, good segue. So
Yeah,
that's the name of your book about networking, right?
it is. So so I wrote a book, Askholes. It's how to give first and network later. It started with my story when I built my connection with an entrepreneur and family member in California. He gave everything to me. He met with me weekly. He shared resources, made introductions. He was like my eye-opening moment into how networking should be. I saw it in action through him and through others that I met. Well, on that journey, as much as I learned from him, I began to fail him personally. I turned into an asshole. I started reaching out to him to ask for things without doing the research up front on my end. Taking up his time where he would direct me and point me in different directions, and I wouldn't even follow through with what he said. And then follow up again and ask something else, and again and again. I fell in that cycle for a minute, and I didn't realize it. I mean, there was probably 6-7 months where it's hard. It's hard to express it. We had a moment where we had a talk and we talked about it. But it's the little things, like you cannot become someone that only takes. And I turned to that person where I was only taking. And that's where the inspiration of the book Askholes came about. Is I became that person that I hate because I hate networking. I started taking and never giving back to the one person that turned me onto this idea of a better way to connect, onto the idea of value and giving first relationship building. So in turn, it inspired the book, and it inspired me reaching out and doing interviews and learning about the stories of people, how they built connections in ways that you wouldn't see today. It was not a gunshot approach or a numbers game. It was very targeted. It was putting themselves in the right place at the right time and doing their research ahead of time to meet the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that the way that you approach networking feels so much about like reciprocity, but also like a mindfulness and intentionality, right? Around kind of knowing who you're trying to connect with, what information you're looking for, but also what you have to give or offer somebody else in return.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that stuff tends to evolve, right? Because we evolve as people, and our
Absolutely.
wants and desires and everything evolve. So like, do you have anything that you do personally or that you would recommend to somebody as far as kind of checking in to sort of regroup with yourself as your business needs or your career needs or whatever evolve?
Okay, so well, interesting enough, I have a web page. So on the bottom of my email, I have an about me. And if you click that, after the basic, here's who I am, here's my purpose, social links, things of that, I have 2 sections, and those 2 sections are what I need help in, so how that person can help me, and what I can help you with. And those are and both of them are 3 bullet points, and I look at them weekly because people can view them publicly on my page. That's where I would say I take a look to constantly stay up to date on what it is I'm looking for, but also on what I can provide. So, a few weeks ago, it was simply, discussions around, startups and entrepreneurship, right? Now it's, potentially inviting people into my beta community, into my, private book club, right? That I'm building, the Startup Grind events. So I don't know if I have a process of doing it, but because I have this doc that I keep up my three intentions, my three top needs and my three top experiences or things I can give, it allows me to evolve it there, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like you use technology a lot for networking, even
Yeah.
prior to this moment, right?
Yeah.
You have this on your website where it's like public, where anybody could find it. Obviously you have the app, your Mintor, right?
Mm.
And I
Yep.
know that you hosted these startup grind events. So is there any tips or things that you've learned about like leveraging technology specifically, especially now that that's kind of the main thing that we have to
Sure,
use?
sure. So I think most people, if they're listening to this, you've probably gone through some kind of message or interaction with someone when you're trying to meet them or they're trying to meet you. And what happens? You do a little back and forth. You ask what times are available, what aren't. You know, you're trying to go through this pretty frustrating step by step to finally book a meeting. I'd say first and foremost, make a Calendly, and this is just personal recommendation. Make a Calendly with or whatever booking tool you'd like to use, and have set times every week where you're willing to meet new people. So that way, anytime that someone wants to meet you, you can say, hey, you can look here. If it's booked for the next month, it's booked for the next month. But that is the best place where you can meet me, and I will openly meet with you, no prerequisites. Then, obviously, if someone wants to push and wants to really engage with you, you can vet them and you can see if you need to meet. But I've seen that from the other side. So from the person requesting, it is so frustrating going back and forth with, whether it's VCs or executives or people who I don't know how they have the time to go back and forth with me on these messages, right? To ultimately find a time and then rebook it a few times just to say hello. So I'd say set up a schedule. Understand that if you're someone looking to go meet people, you need to open your calendar up too. It has to be give and take, and it has to start with you too. If you're going to be the person asking to take people's time, be willing to give yours as well. And I would only say that not just from a how does it look standpoint, but how it makes you feel. Because if you're on a call with someone and you're taking it, it is very apparent, I think, to you inside that you know what you're doing, and when you get off the call, you're not giving back in any way. So know and have a consistent way to give back so that it makes the asks of other people much easier. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I think if it starts with you internally, your approach to others will change.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Like how you make people feel in any of these situations is
Yeah.
so true. Like one of my all-time favorite quotes is the Maya Angelou quote about people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will
Yep.
never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And a couple of rules of thumb. I mean, I guess some things I've learned is every introductory call introductory call needs to be more than 20 minutes. Why? Because you have no idea. As much research have you done, as much value as you provided up front, you have no idea if this person is the right person for you to build a relationship with. And if you do, awesome. Please message me. I would love to know your secrets. And you can join the Mintor team. If you do, great. I would love to talk to you. But you just don't until you meet them, until you know them as a person, right? So I'd say 20 minutes is rule of thumb on how you start. Start with a phone call or give them an option, phone call or web conference. It's the little things if you do up front and you give people options where they don't feel that they're being dragged into your process, but getting to choose their own steps into meeting you, they're going to feel good about that. But at the end of the day, they're still doing what you want to do, and you both win,
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned Mintor, and I know we've kind of talked around it a little. Can you talk more specifically about like what it actually offers? Like, if people wanted to learn more, like what is it?
Yeah. So the idea of Mintor came from that early frustration. Before I met Amir in California, before I had my go-to person, I was all over LinkedIn, getting no responses or being sold stuff. I was at event after event, here in Baton Rouge and other areas where I had stacks of business cards nobody would respond to. I would go to the Small Business Development Center. I go to my local incubator. I go to place and met well over 100 people in under a year, right? And I mean meet with phone call or in person, email to it, back and forth. At the end of it, two people is the number of people that I stayed connected with. So when all is said and done, I just thought to myself, okay, it just feels like dating, but it feels like the worst kind of dating, where it really it's much more stressful, and there is literally no target on how I can get to the right person. And I've started researching my fair share of networking tips and tricks and all that stuff. But at the end, what was missing for me was intention and clarity on both sides. So that's where, so fast forward, and that's where Mintor came about. We built an exclusive networking app for entrepreneurs where they can connect and meet with other entrepreneurs in app through recommendations. So our recommendations are generated based on anything but what you find on LinkedIn or your resume. We don't care about your industry. We don't care about your title. We just don't care because most other people don't either. Okay. And if they do, that means they're headhunting and they're targeting you. Okay. We're trying to take that out. So for us, we generate the rest of those recommendations through experiences, needs, and personality. The three things that we believe actually create mutually beneficial connections. So you know who to meet, why to meet them, what value you can give to them, and also the underlying personalities that will be very important when communicating with that person. So think of, you sign up, you actually, we give you a list of recommendations, you choose who to connect with, their introductory calendar opens up, you book a meeting. And then after that meeting, which every meeting is 15 minutes to start, after that meeting, we try to make it very clear. The review of that meeting says, do you need to meet again? Yes or no? It's double opt-in. So if the other person says no, okay, bye. If they say yes, great. The calendar remains open. And this is the part that I get frustrated with a lot. You ever been off a call and they say, hey, let's stay connected? What the hell does that mean? And I ask, does that mean you're going to follow me on Instagram? Does that mean you're going to like my next post? What does that mean? And it's okay to ask. The nuance of it. We're trying to take some of that out for entrepreneurs. Now, we made it exclusive for a reason. We don't want it to become what LinkedIn is today, which I believe started with very, very valuable intentions, but has become selling and hiring, and they're doing extremely well at that. For us, we are going to vet entrepreneurs on the way in, and to build that trust to say, when you join Mintor, you're getting on with people that will be entrepreneurs, that will fit this set of characteristics, and the ethos will remain a very engaging and startup-friendly community. So every person that gets in also gets 5 invites, because the only way we scale is by allowing the network to invite their trusted network as well. And that's where we are. So we're app-based, we're in private beta, and we're continuing to grow now.
Cool. So it's like a very custom matchmaking service, but not dating entrepreneurs and stuff.
Right.
Basically.
In some ways, it's like a Match.com and LinkedIn, right? But there's no news feed. There's no followers. And our goal is measured by the number of meetings held, not the number of connections you have. We could care less, right? What we care about is, are you meeting the people you connect with? And that's where I think that's where we are really trying to set ourselves apart, is we'll nudge you. So you connect with someone, everything from there on out will say, hey, you should meet this person. Meet them. Why aren't you meeting them? Okay, do you still need to be connected with this person? Because if not, take them off. This is not the place where you build up a robust network of followers, so they can like your stuff, or that you can go and take from at any moment you'd like. No, that would not be what we do. It's connect, meet. Do you need to stay connected and meet? No? Okay, move on. And that way you can stay focused, because really us as people, there's only a certain number of people that we can manage in our inner circle. in our first second. I don't know most people I'm connected with on LinkedIn. Hell, on Facebook, on it, you just don't. So we're trying to set ourselves apart in that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. So it's really about like developing quality instead of quantity.
Yeah.
And so speaking of quality and kind of starting to wrap up, like what is one resource, could be a book, a movie, a person, one resource that you feel like has really changed your life that you would recommend somebody else check out?
So for me, I have to go back to my first mentor, Amir, and he gave me, so the first, I think, nonfiction business book I read was The Magic of Thinking Big. And it just opened my eyes to the possibility of entrepreneurship, of, people and history that have, kind of broken the standard of business and ideas and thought big. So for me, that book, I'd say, was huge.
Awesome. I haven't read that one. I'll have to check it out.
Absolutely.
And then if you could go back and give your like 20-year-old self one piece of advice about anything, could be networking, could be just real life advice, what would you tell your younger self?
I'd probably tell them there's time, there's more time than you think. I've always been overly ambitious, and I am extremely hardworking to the point that it's probably unhealthy here and there. I remember the first 6 months I quit my job to run Mintor full time. There wasn't a week that went by where I didn't do 2 to 3 full all-nighters, and I didn't realize at the time, but I felt that there was this finish line that I had to get to. It was constant. I felt like if I didn't get to the finish line, something would happen. I would be a failure. I wouldn't, do it right. Whatever it is. But So that comes from my own background, where my senior year of high school, I became homeschooled to play tennis, because I crunched the numbers and I was like, tennis is a sport that you have to start out young, and those are typically the top players. Well, I didn't start playing until 14. And then right about 16, when I realized I wasn't winning, I got sick of it, and I said, no. So I did the math, and I said, if I practice 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, in 8 months, I will have played more hours than those that started at 10 years old. So I did it. I got homeschooled. I did it. It was a great experience. I won tournaments. I got scholarship, but I burned out. Man, did I burn out. And that happens, because you put so much into it. I thought I learned from that, but I didn't, because when the startup came, and then that fire, turned back on, it was a blur, day and night, thinking that I had to do 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, just to, reach some goal. Where now I think, or now, my goal and my idea of success is so much different. My idea of success is having a great relationship with my fiance. It's having a great relationship with my friends and my closest network. It's understanding that things don't need to happen on my timeline, but I can do everything in my power to try, and it's okay if it doesn't. But just if I have those things around me, I'll be okay. And I tell my younger self, hey, there's time. I'm 27, and I have very ambitious goals, which is, I've launched a startup. My goal is to launch it and exit it, run a networking event. I own and operate a restaurant. I'm writing this book. My goal is to bring a VC firm to Baton Rouge within the next 3 years. But do I need to do it in that timeline? No, I don't, and I got to keep reminding myself of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I have that tendency too, and I've had to learn how to slow down and give myself some space and some time. Can you remind everybody where they can connect with you online, where they can find Mintor,
Absolutely,
how they get your book when it comes out?
Sure. So if you follow me on Twitter, at Kasra Khalili, that'd be the best spot. You see all my information. There's links to Mintor, my book, everything else. Happy to connect on LinkedIn. If you send me a message, tell me how you heard of me. Don't you dare say, hey, I thought it'd be beneficial that we connect. My response will be, what do you mean? It will be, what do you mean? So yeah, Twitter would be the best place. I'd be happy to connect with you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kasra.
you. Appreciate it, Mallory. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.